And we are now weeks into our 2025 legislative session here in Oklahoma, and there's a lot going on at our state capitol. So to give us an update from the state Senate, let's go ahead and welcome in State Senator and Senate Democratic Leader Julia Kirt. Senator Kirt, good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
So let's start with this, because I know last week Oklahoma did see some pretty devastating severe weather, high winds, high fire danger, and many people, lost their homes because of those wildfires. So I just want to ask you, what statement do you have to share with Oklahomans watching this morning?
I'm so grateful for our first responders. I mean, those amazing firemen who jumped into action. We have outstanding volunteer firefighters in a lot of our smaller communities who were addressing it. And then those awesome folks who coordinate at the state level. I'm so proud of our Oklahoma Emergency Management Group. And they really get in there and make sure everyone's talking to each other and bring in the extra help. I was talking to a Tulsa firefighter during the activity. I was in Langston for the university's new president, and we were afraid the fires were coming that direction. And Tulsa sent extra help to Logan County to assist them, and I was so pleased. That's kind of when government's at its best, when it's actually, really helping people in a crisis and coordinating in ways that you can't do with the private sector. I'm really grateful for the private contributions, like Red Cross. I can't believe they're almost entirely privately funded, which is so amazing. And we need that public and private partnership and response.
And those organizations, those groups, first responders are incredibly important. I do want to ask, just on the state legislative level, what can be done right now in terms of helping those Oklahomans that they did lose their house or they were affected by those wildfires? What can be done at the state level right now? Yeah,
it's really important we make sure we have matching money in the Oklahoma Emergency Management. You don't know what you need from year to year. So like last year when we had the horrible tornadoes in Sulphur, we added extra into the budget to make sure that matching money was there. The federal government, at least in the past, has done like a 90% covering those kinds of challenges. But the local community has to reach 10%. For some small towns, they don't have that kind of cash flow. So we got to make sure state funding is there to make sure it's covered. And then we got to keep supporting our first responders. We've done a lot of things to make sure we're supporting those volunteer firefighters, pensions, health insurance, trying to make sure they're covered so that we keep people in those fields that can help us when those crises come up.
All right, and switching gears here, we're talking about the state Senate right now. There are less than 2 weeks for Senate bills to be heard on the Senate floor. So just talk about what bills you would like to see pass this session.
Senate Democrats are really focused on a great education for every kid, health access, making sure people don't have to wait in line for a year to get in with specialists. We're focused on high-paying jobs and then really transparency and accountability. So any bills that fit those measures, we're always analyzing them with that in mind. How do they serve the people of Oklahoma? Is it really about people or is it about politics? That's our first priority. So our members had some great bills that they filed that specifically about helping our teacher pipeline and making sure we have qualified teachers in the classroom. And then I was really focused on mental health and trying to make sure we have access to mental health, especially in rural areas where you may only have a primary care provider. How do you make sure those folks can serve people who have mental health needs
and get them the help that they need? So I do know that last week Senate Democrats saw 4 bills being passed through the Senate floor. Can you talk more about those bills and how they push forward the priorities of Senate Democrats?
Yeah, one of the most fun ones that we passed last week, Senator Brown Boren from Norman passed a bill specifically about women's sports. So last year there was an incentive program that went through focused on the Thunder, trying to make sure we're supporting the Thunder, keeping that amazing professional team here. Well, when it passed, it was only men's sports listed as options for this incentive. And she asked, why are we not including women's sports? And of course, over the last year, it's been amazing to watch the boom of interest in women's sports. And so her bill specifically included women's sports in that incentive. If softball or basketball start to blow up and we have a huge economic impact, we want to make sure women's sports are treated fairly in that environment. I think that's a kind of problem-solving, bipartisan bills that you'll see out of our members.
That is a really interesting bill and definitely fun to see. So switching gears here, though, to education, that's a major priority for families here in Oklahoma. So just talking about the bills that are on the floor right now in terms of the Senate, what would you like to see moving forward be passed? Are there any bills that you're keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, we're very worried about the social studies standards, and so that's something the legislature can reject those standards or can edit them. We're worried that that's inserting a political interest into the classroom. So a lot of specific things about political slants. There's things about the Bible. We've really got to make sure those standards are about what we want every kid learning, not about one person's interest of what's happening in the classroom, the legislature can reject those. So the Senate and the House have to agree, but they can actually pass a bill to reject those. So I'd like to see that discussed this week. And then otherwise, we've seen some great programs around teacher pipelines. So how do we help emergency teachers become trained educators? Those are the positive measures we think are moving forward.
Right, Senator Julia Kurt, thank you so much for coming on, giving us this insight on the Senate House, or the Senate floor rather. We're going to put some information up on KOCO.com for people who have some interest in some of those bills that we've been talking about this morning. You can find that again on KOCO.com.